We are continuing with the active and passive voice. Now, in this active and passive voice, only a transitive verb can be used in the passive voice. Only a transitive verb can be used in the passive voice. An intransitive verb has no object and therefore it has no passive voice. We need to remember that. So let us note that in the passive and active voice that we are continuing. Passive and active. We are doing the passive and active. What are we supposed to note? Note that only a transitive verb can be used in the passive voice. Let's note that. Let's note only let's note that only a transitive verb, only a transitive only a transitive verb can be used only a transitive verb can be used in the passive voice. In the passive voice. That's what we need to remember. An intransitive verb has no object and therefore has no passive voice. An intransitive verb, an intransitive verb has no object. Has no object and therefore has no passive voice. Has no passive voice. Okay. Let's go on. When the verb which has two objects, now if a verb has two objects after them, in the active voice, they are changed into passive. We need to remember that. One of the objects becomes a subject in the passive voice and the other becomes the object. Okay? So now we are looking at a different one. Okay? When the verbs, let's look at this. When the verbs which take two objects after them in the active voice, in the active voice are changed changed to the passive voice. And one of the objects one of the objects one of the objects becomes the subject. Subject in the passive voice. Okay? And the other is retained as the object. And the other is retained. The other is retained as object. Okay, now let's look at the sentences I have here for you. He gave me a book. He gave me a book. Active. Okay? A book was given to me by him. I was given a book by him. Passive. We are talking about two objects. When the verbs, there are two objects. One becomes the subject and the other automatically is retained as an object. Let's look at the sentence I have here. He gave me a book. He gave. He gave me a book. He gave me a book, and that is in the active voice. Now, we're going to change it to passive. Okay? Now, when you talk about the passive, let's look at the two different types of sentences we'll get in. Let's look at it. One. A book was. A book. A book was given. A book was given to me. To me by him. Okay. Now, you can also say, I was. You can also say, I was given. I was given a book by him. Okay. Now, he gave me a book. He gave me a book that is in the active. It's an active voice. Okay? He gave me a book that's in the active voice. Now, we are changing that to make it into both these become the passive. Let's look at it. Passive. Passive voice. Look, a book. Okay, a book was given to me by him. A book was given to me by him, and it can also be written, I was given a book by him. Okay, now here the verb me, gave me, gave, when the verb which take two objects, if we are talking about me, he gives who? He gives a book to me, gives book to me. Active. Here, a book was given to me by him. Again, the same thing here. I was given a book by him. Okay? We are talking about the two, when the verbs take two objects, one after the other. Look at that. Now, he gave me a book. Here, I was given a book. That's enough. By him. You see? So one becomes the I was given a book. The objects here, I was given a book. I become the subject, and here the book is the object here. I was given what? A book was given to me. So there are two different ways of writing the active voice. He gave me a book, active voice, can be written in two different forms. Okay, now I'll give you another sentence, active voice. Okay, now another sentence I have here for you is, I gave her a rupee. I gave her a rupee. I gave her a rupee, and that becomes the active voice. You're giving. Actually, it is happening. Now, we can change that I gave her a rupee into two different ways of writing a passive voice. Like, a rupee was given, you will write it, a rupee. A rupee was given to her. A rupee was given to her by me. Okay? By me. Now, another way of writing the same passive voice, we will say, she was given a rupee by me. She was given. She was given a rupee by me. She was given a rupee by me. So, two different ways of writing. This is an active voice, and the same active voice, we are writing it in two different ways, making it into passive. Both these are passive voices. That is the a rupee. I gave her a rupee. And we are changing, a rupee was given to her by me, or she was given a rupee by me. Two different ways of writing the same thing. Okay, now, supposing I say, he taught us English. He taught us English. So, another one I will say, he taught us. He taught us English. And that's the active voice. And when we change it, you will say, English was taught to us by him. English was taught to us. Was taught to us by him. By him. Now we can also write it as, we were taught English by him. So we can also say, we were taught. We were taught. We were taught English by him. English by him. Two different ways of writing. Now, let's look at this. He taught us English, that is active voice. Active voice. Then we are changing that active voice, and let's look at it. It says English was taught to us. English was taught to us by him, or we can say we were taught English by him, and both are passive voices. Both are passive voices. This is also passive. This is also passive. Passive voice. So both are passive voices. This and that. Okay? So we learned today to change the active voice and write it in two different ways. Okay? Now, first, he gave me a book. Active voice, we can change it two different ways. A book was given to me by him. I was given a book by him. The second you have, I gave her a rupee, that's the active voice. I gave her a rupee. So when you change it to passive, a rupee was given to her by me, or she was given a rupee by me. And in the third we have, he taught us English active. We can either write English was taught to us by him, or we were taught English by him. So two different ways of writing the passive voice changing from active.